Have you ever noticed how love often shows up in the most unexpected ways? At times, it feels so obvious. Clear words, sweet gestures, passionate promises. And yet other times, it hides behind contradictions. A man may seem distant, silent, or unsure, while at the same time doing things that feel far too meaningful to ignore. It's confusing, isn't it? But here's the truth. When love is real, it doesn't always declare itself through words or grand gestures. According to Jung, deep love often reveals itself through the unconscious, through small actions, subtle details, and quiet shifts in behavior that the man himself may not even recognize. Jung believed that what we do not make conscious will appear in our lives as fate. That means when a man is in love, even before his mind admits it, his soul begins to act on his behalf. Love leaks through in ways he can't control. And if you know how to recognize these signs, you'll see his feelings long before he dares to speak them. Think about it. That man who sometimes leaves you questioning his silences, who seems distant one day and unusually close the next, may actually be far more in love with you than he realizes. Love doesn't always announce itself logically. It doesn't follow rules. Instead, it seeps through in unconscious ways, through the way he looks at you when you aren't watching, through the way his tone softens when he speaks to you, through his behavior that changes only when you are around. Carl Jung spent his life studying the hidden world of the psyche, the invisible threads of emotion, instinct, and archetypes that shape how we love. And he discovered something fascinating. Love often bypasses reason. It moves beneath the surface, transforming us in ways we can't explain. When a man is truly touched by someone, his unconscious responds first. His conscious mind takes time to catch up. So how do you know if he's more in love than he realizes? What are the signs his soul is giving away before his words can? Let's dive into them, one by one. The first sign is attention, but not the obvious kind. This isn't about grand compliments or trying to impress you. It's subtler, more genuine. A man in love notices the little things. He pays attention to details that others overlook. He'll sense your moods even when you say, "I'm fine." He'll notice a small change in your hairstyle or hear the faintest shift in your tone of voice. He may even bring up something you mentioned weeks ago, showing you he's been carrying your words with him. This isn't shallow curiosity, it's emotional resonance. Your presence has awakened something in him, and his unconscious keeps drawing him toward you. The second sign is change. When a man is truly in love, even without realizing it, he doesn't behave the same around you as he does with others. His guard may drop. He might seem more vulnerable, softer, even clumsier. Why? Because love disarms us. It makes us real. Around you, he may laugh differently, speak differently, even carry himself differently. This isn't performance. It's his unconscious responding to your energy, shifting him in ways he doesn't even recognize. And then there's care. Jung said that what the soul loves, it protects. When a man is more in love than he knows, he begins to care about your well-being in quiet, unexplainable ways. He might check if you got home safely, make sure you're warm, remind you to eat, or shield you from something that could hurt you. It isn't control or obligation, it's instinct. It's his inner world aligning with yours as if his balance depends on your safety. Another powerful sign is found in silence. You see, when love is unconscious, words don't always come easily. Instead, it shows up in presence. A man who is more in love than he realizes can sit with you in silence without it feeling empty or awkward. That silence becomes connection. It's the space where two souls meet without needing explanations. You'll see it in his eyes, in his breathing, in the way he simply wants to exist in your company. Pay close attention to how he reacts when others talk about you. If someone praises you, his eyes light up. If someone criticizes you, even subtly, his expression changes. He may not say anything, but his instinct to defend you is there. Jung reminded us that the unconscious has its own paths. Emotions guide us, even when the mind hasn't yet named them. If his reactions reveal that your name matters, it's because his soul has already decided you do, and then there is effort. Real love always creates effort, even small ones. He may not write you poetry or buy you gifts, but he'll remember the little things you said. He'll adjust his schedule for you. He'll listen more carefully than usual. He'll apologize if he feels he's hurt you. Effort is love in motion, and often a man's unconscious expresses it long before he admits it to himself. But perhaps the most profound sign of all is transformation. When a man is truly touched by a woman's presence, something inside him shifts. He begins to change, not just in how he acts toward you, but in how he sees himself, his future, his world. Jung believed that love connects us to the essence of who we are. It awakens hidden parts of the psyche, dismantles barriers, and brings us closer to our authentic self. If you notice that being with you makes him softer, braver, or more open, it's not by accident. His soul is already in motion, and this is the paradox. He may not even understand what's happening. He may not say the words, "I love you," because his conscious mind is still catching up. But his actions, his silences, his changes, they all whisper the truth. Love is already alive inside him, so don't only wait for grand declarations or big gestures. Jung reminds us that the deepest truths often lie beneath the surface, in the unconscious. Look for the signs, the quiet devotion, the instinctive care, the subtle shifts in behavior. These reveal more about his love than words ever could, because when a man is truly in love, even if he hasn't realized it yet, his soul is already speaking. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it. That quiet effort speaks louder than 1,000 words. Because the truth is simple. Someone who feels nothing doesn't move. But someone who loves, even if he hasn't yet named it, makes space. Not to impress, not to win anything, but because his inner world is already rearranging itself to include you. And here's something few people notice. A man in love begins to change even when you're not around. His routine shifts. His thoughts scatter. He becomes more distracted, more introspective, as if something deep inside him has awakened, but he doesn't yet understand why. But the answer is clear. You are there, present in his mind, present in his emotions, shaping what used to be automatic, but no longer is. Carl Jung spoke of the power of inner figures, how someone can live within us, transform us, even without physical presence. And when a man falls deeply, you become one of those inner figures. Even if he denies it, even if he tries to hide it, you are already part of his inner world. That's why you should never be fooled by appearances. Many men remain silent not because they don't feel, but because they struggle to translate the language of the soul into the language of logic. But if you pay close attention, you'll notice his heart has already made a decision long before his mind admits it. There is a transformation that happens in the heart of a man in love, and it's rarely obvious at first. It's slow, almost, invisible but incredibly powerful. This transformation shows when he begins to let go of attitudes that once defined him. Perhaps he avoided commitment. Perhaps he always kept emotional distance. Or maybe he lived in comfortable independence. But since you entered his life, something inside him has shifted. Thinking only about himself is no longer enough. He begins opening up emotional space he once guarded. And he does it unconsciously, not as a sacrifice, but as if his soul were adapting to a new reality calling him from deep within. Notice when he starts to share pieces of himself that others don't. See, not superficial details, but intimate fragments, his fears, his regrets, his hidden dreams. When a man reveals his vulnerabilities, it's not to appear perfect. It's because he has found trust in you that he never knew before. At that point, it's no longer about conquest or games, it's surrender, and that surrender is the clearest sign that something profound has shifted within him. Jung said that the soul needs a mirror to truly know itself, and when a man loves deeply, you become that mirror. Through you, he begins to see not just you, but himself, differently, more honestly, more completely. Another sign, often unnoticed, is how he responds to your emotions. Not everyone can handle another person's emotional intensity, but when he is deeply connected, he begins to resonate with your feelings. He smiles with your joy. He grows restless when he senses your sadness. He may not always have the words, but you'll see it in the way his energy shifts when yours does. His voice softens, his presence draws closer. He doesn't always know what to do, but he wants to do something. That silent desire to share in your emotional world is one of the most authentic signs of unconscious love. Perhaps the most revealing of all is what happens in your absence. Watch how he behaves when you're not around. Does he bring you up in casual conversation? Does he save stories to tell you later? Does he think of you first when something happens in his life? Those are the signs that truly matter. Because when you live in his inner world, even without physical presence, it's not coincidence. That is the soul speaking. This isn't about guessing what someone feels. It's about learning to read the heart's language. Love rarely arrives with perfect words or clear certainty. It arrives in subtle signs, the way his unconscious organizes his life around you before his conscious mind understands what's happening. And then comes another stage. A man in love begins to need your presence, not as routine, not as possession, but as balance. He may not say it directly, but his energy reveals it. You'll see it in his impatience when there's no news from you, in the way he reappears, just when you start to wonder about him, in how any excuse suddenly seems enough to bring him near you, even for a moment. This isn't obsession. It's not dependency. It's a genuine connection arising from a depth even he can't explain. Jung believed the unconscious is not bound by time or logic. When real emotion takes root, it begins to shape thoughts, impulses, and decisions before we even understand why. And one of the strongest ways this shows is in how he begins to consider your opinion, even in things that don't directly involve you. He starts sharing his plans, his doubts, his dreams, not to impress, but because your presence already lives inside those possibilities. Silently, you have become a guiding figure in his emotional life. He may even open up about his insecurities, his fears, the sides of himself he usually hides. And it's not because he sees you as a therapist, but because something in him recognizes you as safe. With you, he can be his true self, without armor, without strategies. And that, perhaps, is the deepest sign of all. Because love isn't built on certainty or control. Love is built on the courage to be vulnerable without fear. When he trusts you with that raw, unguarded self, even if he doesn't yet realize it, his soul is already loving you. So if you see these signs, don't dismiss them. Don't be fooled by the lack of big declarations or dramatic gestures. Real love doesn't always announce itself in obvious ways. Instead, it grows quietly, silently, shaping a man from within. It transforms his world, his choices, his inner life. Carl Jung taught that true love is not chosen. It appears as an inevitable force. It bypasses logic, reshapes the soul, and connects us with who we truly are. And that's exactly what you're witnessing when a man shows these signs. Even if he hasn't said the words, even if he doesn't yet realize it himself, his heart already knows. There's one truth about love that often goes unnoticed. When a man is more in love than he realizes, it doesn't always show up in big declarations or dramatic gestures. It reveals itself quietly in subtle shifts, in actions he himself may not even fully understand. And if you learn how to see these signs, you'll understand the depth of his feelings long before he finds the words to express them. What truly confirms it all is how he starts imagining a future with you, even without being aware of it. He might casually mention traveling somewhere or starting something new, and without saying it directly, you're already part of that vision. In his mind, you're not just a passing figure, but someone woven into his journey. Carl Jung often spoke of how the unconscious reveals truth through symbols and spontaneous expressions. Those small comments, those glimpses into the future, are his unconscious already including you in his life. You don't need to pressure him or ask for clarity, because when the soul loves, it shows. His energy, his attention, his presence naturally lean toward you. And that kind of love, once rooted in the unconscious, becomes undeniable. Even if his mind hasn't caught up, his heart has already made its decision. Another powerful sign is how he begins to see you as something he doesn't want to lose. This shift changes the way he relates to you. It's not only about being affectionate or seeking your company more often, it's deeper. His world begins to reorganize itself around your presence. You stop being an addition to his life, and instead, you become part of the center. You'll notice it when, even during busy or stressful days, he still shows up. Not because he has to, but because he doesn't want distance between you. Simply being near you, even in silence, brings him peace. And peace is one of the most powerful signs of real love. Beyond the butterflies and excitement, true love creates a sense of safety, a calm refuge. When a man feels he can be imperfect, vulnerable, and still accepted by you, that's when he begins to see you as home. Not a physical space, but an emotional sanctuary. And here's where something even more telling begins to happen. He starts to align his life with yours without you ever asking. Maybe he takes interest in the things you love, joins in your passions, or listens closely to your ideas. It's not about losing himself, it's about discovering beauty in sharing. Jung believed that when two souls resonate, the inner boundaries begin to soften. That softening is what creates real intimacy, the kind of connection that feels like belonging. Another subtle but powerful detail is how he defends you in your absence. You may not hear it, but in small conversations or private moments, he takes your side. He protects your name, your value, even when you're not there to see it. This isn't about gaining points or impressing anyone. It's an unconscious act of love. Protecting you feels like protecting a part of himself. Love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply acts in silence. And that silent loyalty is one of the strongest signs of deep attachment. Now notice how he makes decisions. If you begin to see him considering your opinion, even on things that don't directly involve you, that's another powerful indicator. When he starts planning his future and genuinely wants your perspective, it's not just to charm you, it's because he truly wants to build a life that aligns with you. At that point, you're no longer an option in his world. You've become a guiding presence, an influence that shapes his choices without him realizing it. This also shows up in his vulnerability. When a man starts sharing his fears, doubts, insecurities, and hidden dreams, it means he trusts you on a soul level. He's not trying to appear perfect or strong. He's allowing you to see his unpolished, unguarded self. That trust is not something men give lightly. It happens only when the unconscious recognizes safety. Jung taught that the soul needs a mirror to truly know itself. And in you, he has found that mirror, someone who allows him to see himself differently, more truthfully. There's also a deeper shift that often goes unnoticed: how he responds to your emotions. Even without words, you'll see it. When you're joyful, his energy brightens. When you're sad, he feels restless, unsettled. He may not always know what to do, but his presence changes because he's attuned to you. That synchronization, when your emotional world impacts his, is one of the clearest signs that he's in love, even if he hasn't said it aloud. And, perhaps the most telling of all, how he acts when you're not around. Does he bring you up in conversations, save stories to share with you later? Think of you first when something important happens. If you find yourself living in his thoughts when you're absent, then his love has already gone far beyond surface attraction. What remains in absence is often stronger than what appears in presence. This is why Jung emphasized the unconscious as the true voice of love. It doesn't rely on logic, planning, or performance. It simply reveals itself in repeated patterns, in quiet consistency, in gestures too subtle to be staged. When you put all of this together, the way he imagines a future with you, the peace he feels in your presence, the way he aligns with your world, defends you, considers you in his choices, opens up emotionally, and carries you in his thoughts, you begin to see the full picture, a man who is more in love with you than he realizes. His actions, his silences, his energy all testify to a truth his words may not yet be ready to confess. Real love doesn't always arrive with grand gestures. More often, it comes quietly, in constant presence, in silent care, in the small ways he rearranges his inner world to include you. That's why you must learn to see beyond appearances. Jung reminded us that the unconscious doesn't lie. It speaks through symbols, through subtle emotional movements, through truths the mind has not yet processed. So if you recognize these signs, if you feel his soul leaning toward you, even when his words don't, trust it. Because sometimes what we call doubt is simply the mind trying to understand what the heart already knows. And if this message resonates with you, share it. Because there are many who need to hear this truth, that love is not always loud, but it is always real when it comes from the depths of the soul.